I am Teacher Jason, and I am welcoming all of you to the CD Room, an alternative learning modality that aims to enhance students' academic performance in English through interactive video lessons.
CD Room Project Quarter 3, Week 1. Differentiate biases from prejudices. After going through this video lesson, you are expected to make judgment based on given scenarios, differentiate biases from prejudices through examples, weigh information to make decisions, and supply correct answers to given exercises. Are you ready? Are you excited just like me?
What are you waiting for? Bring out your pen, your notebook, and let's start the fun in learning.
Before we start our lesson, let us first assess your prior knowledge about it. Determine whether the given scenario shows bias or prejudice. Write your answer in your notebook. Number 1. Not hiring someone because of age or gender. Number 2. Assuming someone is gay because of the way he acts. Number 3. Bullying and discriminating someone with disability. Number 4. Accepting exclusive membership of clubs where certain people are not allowed. And number 5. Posting negative comments in social media about economic status of a family. Let's check. The answer on number 1 is bias. Number 2, prejudice. Number 3, prejudice. Number 4, bias. And number 5, prejudice. Were you able to get all the answers correctly? If yes, that's great. It means that you have prior knowledge about our lesson. If no, don't worry. You can learn them as we go through this video lesson.
For us humans, the feeling of being accepted for who we are has always been our goal. But what will you do if no matter how hard you try to blend in, the system always push you out? Join me as we discuss bias and prejudice. What comes into your mind when you see this logo? Was there a time in your life when you caught yourself prejudging others? Do you consider yourself judgmental as well? Let us see how you are going to judge these dialogues.
Do the dialogues in the comic strips show fairness and equality? If your answer is no, then it means you are good in detecting prejudices.
Prejudice refers to a preconceived opinion or feeling toward a person based solely on their affiliation with a group. This feeling may be translated into action by discriminating against the person or members of the target group. An individual may be prejudiced against others based on factors such as race, age, gender, sexual orientation, class status, religion, and nationality. Here are some examples of prejudice. These examples clearly show that there are prejudices going on. The statements prejudge against black people, Jews, and Muslims basically because of their race, nationality, and religion. Even though they have not done anything wrong yet, but because of their background, people tend to prejudge them and eventually discriminate them. These are very common in our society today.
Another term that causes confusion and is often used interchangeably with prejudice is bias. What is bias? Study the next picture, then define it using your own word. According to the teacher, who will get higher grades? Is this fair?
Bias is a tendency to lean in a certain direction, either in favor of or against a certain thing. To be truly biased means to lack a neutral viewpoint on a certain topic.
If you're biased towards something, then you lean favorably toward it, meaning you tend to think positively of it. Meanwhile, if you are biased against something, then you lean negatively against it. You tend to think poorly of it. For example, in other Christian sects, the preacher position is only given to males and not to females. Another example is sectarian schools only accept students who share the same religious beliefs. Or some churches don't accept women who wear pants instead of dresses or skirts during their services.
Number 1, males are given more power or authority than females. In number 2, students who are interested in a certain school but don't share the same religion can't be admitted. And lastly, women who want to attend church services are not allowed to go unless they wear the prescribed clothes for the said services.
Did you understand the lesson, class? Let us have a drill. This drill is designed to help you understand our lesson better. Directions. Examine the given images closely. Identify which image shows bias or prejudice. Write the word bias or prejudice as your answer. If your answer is prejudice, then you are correct. It is prejudice because the man in the picture thinks that he is better than the person with disability. If your answer is bias, then you are correct. It is bias because the picture suggests that men should work while women should stay at home. The correct answer on number 3 is prejudice. It is prejudice because the two rich men judged the man by his appearance and status. The correct answer on number 4 is bias. This is bias because the character preferred beauty than age. And lastly, the answer on number 5 is bias. This is bias because the reason of the teacher in giving grade is due to the relationship and not academic achievement. Let's proceed to the second drill. Study and evaluate whether the given scenarios contain biases and prejudices. Write bias, prejudice, or none. Some Muslims are assumed to be terrorists and eventually being discriminated. The correct answer is prejudice. Jews during the period of Hitler were sentenced to death because Hitler himself despised Jewish people. The correct answer is bias. A teacher who gives good rating to her student who shares the same religious belief. The answer is bias. Number 4. A married couple living in a new country where they are free to attend church service. The correct answer is none. Tom Cruise's affiliation with Scientology prompts all kinds of negative press. The correct answer is prejudice. Were you able to get all answers correctly? If yes, congratulations! It means to say that you have already mastered our lesson for today. If no, don't worry, you can always hit the replay button. Let us proceed to our next activity. Read each item carefully. Write agree if the statement is correct and disagree if it's not correct. Write a brief explanation if you disagree with the statement. You may click the pause button while thinking. Okay, let us check. The answer on number 1 is agree. Number 2, the answer is agree. Number 3, the answer is disagree because bias means to lean in a certain direction while discrimination is the action. Number 4, disagree. It should be discrimination is taking action based on prejudice. Number 5, the answer is agree. Activity 2. Read the given scenarios properly. Write bias or prejudice if you can detect any. If you cannot, write none. Explain your judgment after your chosen answer. You may click the pause button while writing your explanation. The answer on number 1 is bias, because people's views on someone are still negative even after being proven innocent. On number 2, the answer is bias, because the decision was based on one's perception and feelings. The answer on number 3 is prejudice, because the couple's sexual preference was judged to be something not acceptable. On number 4, the answer is prejudice, because the person with physical impairment is assumed to have another disability. The answer on number 5 is none. Neither prejudice nor bias is present in the statement. For your performance task, compose a personal prayer for people who have been prejudged, have been discriminated, and have experienced biases in life. It is preferably a prayer with a minimum of 50 words.
Were you able to get all answers correctly? If yes, congratulations! It means to say that you have already mastered our lesson for today. If no, don't worry, you can always hit the replay button.
Let us wrap up the lesson by filling up the Venn diagram. Compare and contrast prejudice from bias. Prejudice refers to a preconceived opinion or feeling toward a person. It is an unfavorable opinion or feeling formed beforehand without thought, knowledge, or reason. On the other hand, bias is a tendency to lean in a certain direction. It gives favor or preference to others. Lastly, it is subjective or it lacks neutral viewpoint. What do prejudice and bias have in common? Both may lead to discrimination or violation of one's rights. Both may leave trauma to the victims. And both are unfair and unreasonable treatment. For our final task, read and analyze each item. Then choose the letter of the correct answer. Write the letter only. Number 1. Denying someone a promotion because of his sexual orientation. Is it A. Bias, B. Prejudice, C. None? Number 2. Firing a woman from her job upon learning of her pregnancy. Is it A. Bias, B. Prejudice, C. None? Next, number 3. Offering a higher pay to a newly hired Christian physician over a mainstay Hindu doctor. Is it letter A. Bias, B. Prejudice, C. None? Number 4. Putting up a greater number of washrooms in airports for females than males. Is it A. Bias, B. Prejudice, C. None? Number 5. Being not invited over a classy neighborhood party because of their ethnicity and origin. Is it A. Bias, B. Prejudice, C. None? For your assignment, using your own experience or the experience of someone you personally know, write a brief narrative about prejudice and bias.
Before we end our lesson, I want to share with you a quote by Daryl Davis. It says, "Ignorance is the source of all biases. If we cure it, there is nothing to fear and hate." That ends our lesson for today. Once again, this is your teacher Jason, and see you on the next episode of CD Room.